Welcome to Under Construction from Chadwicks. This is the podcast where we chat pure site. We're going to address the issues that affect tradespeople both on and off site. So do listen in. Today's episode is going to be very enjoyable. We are joined by Loughlin and Áine Byrne about addiction and the challenges that not only the individual faces, but their family and their community. This is a hard-hitting topic with a really important message and great information. So grab a cuppa, turn up the volume, and let's get it done. Loughlin, Áine Byrne, you are very welcome to Under Construction. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks a million, Donncha, for having us.
If you're up for it, lads, we are chatting to everyone in the trade. And one of the greatest things in the trades is strength tests. Yeah, Áine's faces, what have I lined up for? But Áine, I've big hopes for you here. The Shells lads were in, Mark and John, and they're topping it. So we're hoping they can be trumped with a grip test.
Right.
Do you want to give it a go, Áine?
Sure, go on.
Give it everything. So leader is on 59.2, Áine, but I'm turning to Ireland's for this family. I'm turning to Davy Fitz. Come on, Áine, you have it. Go, 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 go. Yes.
Okay, don't tell anyone my score.
Not at all. We will, of course. 53.4. 53.4. Well done, you. Wait up now, Luke. I'm going to put down Áine's.
All right.
Squeeze as hard as you can. You can bring it up and down, whatever. There we go. What's the score come in?
109 point.
Show that to the cameras. They'll
Gone
never
down
believe
now.
it.
It's gone down.
111.7. That puts... Good on you, Luke. It puts you top of the pile.
Well done.
And Áine, you're going to be delighted that you have passed Mark Coyle from Shelburne. Yeah, well done, well done.
Is that in pounds now or kilograms?
Did I change it?
The other ones are in kilos.
Oh, geez, someone else can work that out.
It'll be 2.2.
Yeah. I'm not getting into matrix and numbers. Oh, jeez.
My strength broke it.
It did. That's what happened, Áine. Good on you.
Definitely.
Thank you so much for joining us. Obviously, there is vast experience within the room. Áine, you might just tell us a little bit about your role and just a bit about yourself.
Okay, so I work in Bagenalstown Family Resource Centre in County Carlow, and I work on a pilot programme that is one of 24 in Ireland in the family resource centres, and it's a collaboration between the gambling care and the Forum of Family Resource Centres in Ireland. And we are working to help people who are struggling with gambling in the communities.
Amazing work on you, because we do chat about all forms of addiction, but gambling seems to be a silent assassin, doesn't it?
Very much so, yeah. It's very, very hidden. Apparently only 20% of people who have issues with gambling seek help.
Yeah.
It's sad. It's a sad number. I think...
That is a frightening number.
Yeah, it is, yeah. Because we're now working in the community and there's more recognition, that's hopefully changing. I'm busy, so people are seeking help. I have a number of people who are in addiction, and then other clients who are family members coming to get help as well.
Well, amazing. Luke, thank God you're one of those 20%.
Yeah, lucky, yeah.
Yeah, because, well, from a selfish point of view, of course, I know individually, your story, and you might tell us a little bit about it, but just what you represent, we've all seen you on the pitch tearing it up, but for you to come out and put your hand up and make people aware that, you know what I mean, it's okay to have a weakness and it's okay to speak up, and more importantly, it's okay to seek help. You might tell us a little bit.
I suppose just something that I'd been thinking about the last night. I suppose man is strongest when he's on his knees. You know, he accepts his flaws and his weaknesses and he's willing to work on them, you know, and I think that takes great strength, not only just talking about myself, but for everyone to do that.
Yeah.
I don't class myself anymore as like an alcoholic or coke addict or gambling addict. I'm an addict, and I suppose what that means is like I was just addicted to anything that takes myself out of my reality, like just being able to just leave my life basically, and not be in my own head. And it probably, gambling was probably, as alcohol and cocaine was the main factors in my life, but when I was maybe 16, 17, I think gambling was number one. I kind of won big in a casino in Mullingar after a night out, and big at the time was probably, I think it was like 2000 or 2100. Like I was only a kid.
Amazing.
And after that, I was just chasing that feeling, and I think that's when things really spiraled. You know, that I was chasing and chasing and chasing and chasing, and I unfortunately never got it. Like, and I never was going to get it. I was working. I left school at that time, and I was working in a tool making factory, and I'd be working on a CNC machine here, and in my other hand I'd have blackjack up on my phone, because I was trying to get up to, that was originally where I'd won the money, was on blackjack, and that's kind of what I was doing, you know. So like, I can see now like how that affected me, and like the way that affected me when I was a kid, you know. And yeah, like it's just it's scary, and I'm lucky that I was able to kind of change or whatever. So yeah,
it's amazing though, because I've been in those dressing rooms environments as well. I would feel it's more common than people think.
100%.
And you mentioned the other addictions, which are, you know, we're seeing in all forms of society. But if we can focus on gambling today, just maybe that side of it, Luke, were you chasing the highs?
I probably was. Do you know, with gambling, like when people are addicted to alcohol and drugs, you can see the effects on them.
Yeah.
Suppose when someone's addicted to gambling, you can't really see the actual effect on them. Like, do you know, obviously their internal battles, nobody can really see what's going on inside someone's head. But the gambling, as you said, like silent killer. And like in the dressing rooms there, like I'd say, I was just only saying to Áine before we started, if I was going to a Westmeath game and we were on a long journey, if I walked up and down the bus, you definitely look into a few phones and lads would be on the apps. But just in terms of what I was chasing, I think I had a lot of stuff to happen to me when I was young. Probably, you know, an unconventional type childhood, you know. It's probably, I never met my real dad, and I have no relationship with him. So I was always trying to fill some sort of hole. And now I'm nearly 30 now. I'm not longing for anyone's attention or whatever, but I think that's kind of where it came from. I just probably never felt good enough, and always wanted to make myself feel better. It was like self-medicating. And at that time, that's probably what that was doing for me, to be honest. Because
you got to the point maybe with other addictions that you had kind of moments. I remember you chatted about the viral clip that went around. You might tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so in maybe May 2021, so I would do this thing like a lot of addicts would do. It's like binge. So it could be like a 4-day, 3-day, whatever, just crazy kind of stuff, you know, like cocaine, and drink as much as you can, and then you'd be able to kind of pull yourself out of it, like you were raised right. You're like, geez, this can't go on, and you'd almost kind of try and change. At that time, things had really gotten in on me, and I just couldn't get myself out of it. Like no sport, no anything. I just given up, and for about, I don't know, 6 or 8 weeks, I was either in bed or partying, like, you know, in depressive states. And yeah, a video went around to me asleep on a train tracks out in like so over COVID, like you could drink at a pub kind of, you know, you had to order food. This pub obviously was out in the middle of nowhere, could like let you do what you want. And I don't know what was going through my head. I was obviously off my head, cocaine and drunk for a few days, and I fell asleep beside the train tracks. Now I don't know what was going on in my head. Of course. To be honest, I actually hadn't a clue. And yeah, video around, someone took it. Suppose it might sound crazy, but like I'm grateful for those videos. And that, to be honest, people always ask me, was that rock bottom? And I was like, no. Or was that the changing point? I was like, no, because I went on for another few weeks. Yeah. I suppose the changing point, like, of what made me actually change, what kind of woke me up a small bit. So a few weeks after that, I went into a treatment centre. Basically, because people had leave me alone. I had nowhere else to go, to be honest. I was after being in the army. I was MIA from the army, and I was in Galway, and I couldn't come back to Mullingar because my mother was like, I can't do this anymore. But when I was in treatment after a few weeks, a woman, her name was Josie, and I can remember as if she was standing in front of me. She said, she called me to one side. I was probably about 3 weeks in there at this stage, and she said, Luke, you're getting nothing out of this place. You're only in here to charge the batteries. He said, you're wasting people's money, you're wasting people's time. I didn't really understand it. And I kind of was, oh, yeah, whatever. And she said, you had a little cousin that died in an accident in your house. And I was like, yeah. And she said, yeah, she kind of didn't really say that. And after that, I was just kind of thinking, she goes, I'm a grief counsellor. And she said, I have a son that passed away 20 years ago. And do you know how he was killed? And I was like, no. And she said, well, he was killed by a drink driver. And I was just there, like, I didn't know, I was stunned. And she said to me, you did a lot of drink driving. Just before I went into treatment, I was after being put off the road. I wrote off 2 cars 2 separate times within a 6-week period. Wow. And so I was obviously just after being put off the road. They'd obviously known that. And she was like, well, do you know what I do for that person that killed my son? She said, I pray for him every day. And I was just there like honest to God, if my jaw could have hit the floor. And she was like, the life you're living now, your little cousin doesn't get a chance to live that life. And you're just, and I never heard her curse. And she goes, and you're pissing it against the wind. And like, you have all this talent, and I know you're a nice person and you're kind. But she was like, what are you doing with yourself? Like, and I just remember going away down to the room that I was in, and I just bawled. And it was probably the first time I was able to release emotion like that in my life. And from that moment on, I just said, right, if I can't get better, I'm at least going to try some sort to try and get better, exercise or open up about my problems or share. And like all the interviews and stuff that has happened since, like at that moment, I never thought any of that was ever going to happen. Never thought that any was possible. I just wanted to be better. Just wanted to make my mom proud, make my granddad proud, play club football at the Downs, or these small things. And just from that moment when I decided to get better, I've been given a life that I probably never could have dreamed of, like opportunities like this, like, these things don't just happen all the time, and without the experience that I have and been trying to pass it on to other people, that's where I feel like my benefit is, like, live your experiences through me, and like I'm trying to pass it on and like leave a mark on life. And like you're probably the same as well, like, but yeah, it's great. But I'm very lucky, like, and that's like, before I got to that stage, a lot of damage happened before that as well. But yeah, just a very lucky person, I think, to be honest, and grateful.
You're not lucky, Luke. We're lucky for you, man. We're lucky that someone has the balls to talk up and voice what others are really, really struggling with. And you're an unbelievable example to people, hopefully, that are listening.
Thank
that
you.
There is care, there is help, there is, you know what I mean, a happy ending to probably the position you're in. But only I'll go to you. Look, you're the one with the experience. Luke has shared incredibly about an incredible conversation with Josie, but that's your day to day. They're the moments you have.
And hopefully
daily.
When people are open to it, absolutely. But to add to what Luke said, giving that experience, that real life experience, is so powerful. It's so valuable. It's the best anyone can do for people, because you don't know who's hearing your story. And like any talk I've been to with people sharing their stories, there's always people that reach out after for help. Yeah. It encourages people to come and tell their own story. They might not be ready to publicly say it, and that's fine too. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the beauties we say about working in the resource centres. You could be coming in for anything.
Yeah.
It's so confidential. Like there's loads of stuff going on in a resource centre. There's yoga classes, childcare, there's everything. So like getting the help is so important. And like treatment centres are fantastic. And you remind me of someone I know from a treatment centre, actually.
Good, hopefully.
Yeah, good looking fella.
He's very good though, because he talks about having the one-to-one conversations with people and how that really, it hits people.
Yeah.
And that's how they start to open up. And sometimes people are not ready. And that's okay too. Yeah. If it doesn't work the first time, don't give up. There is always hope. There's people like yourself, and you're living it, and it will happen. It will happen.
But Áine, Luke's bravery to speak out, like you mentioned, 20%, like not everyone has the self-awareness and that selfless act to think of someone else along the line that Luke has, that powerful influence to help others. Let's just chat about someone that might be listening and Luke, you know, they might know they have a problem. What should they do?
Well, I always say, tell somebody. Just start with one person, share it. And that you start to feel a sense of relief, I think, when you do 100%. Share it. And then that person usually will help and support you getting more help. Or Google, it's a great thing. If you're not sure, Google it. Yeah. And like we're there, Gambling Care, there's, as I said, there's 24 resource centres in Ireland. There's all the treatment centres. There's other centres that do the one-to-one as well, and there's lots of help there. There's more attention being given to gambling now. It's starting to be recognised slowly, but there is help, and I would say just tell someone and then move on.
Because Luke mentioned the bus and the apps and people like that, but I've seen it firsthand in dressing rooms, and people would see it on building sites as well, and work environments. It is way more common than we believe. I couldn't believe one time in one of our team rooms, lads betting on double faults in tennis. Like irrational things, stuff that, you know, I can understand. Well, maybe I don't know it well enough, but soccer games with two teams that they would know no one in, or the leagues. It's the addiction, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's 24/7. You can bet on anything. There's always something going on at some place in the world that you can bet on, and I suppose that's the advantage that the industry are taking on the person with the problem.
Yeah.
They know that person is going to gamble regardless, even if they have an interest or not.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where the problem is, because they can't stop. That availability, that 24/7 availability is there, and it's everywhere. It's everywhere.
Luke, I found it really interesting that you said you're an addict. You didn't separate alcohol, drugs and gambling, because most people can in ways. And like just looking towards gambling, how was that different? Did you feel because of the other addictions that gambling was more apt for you?
At that time, I obviously had never really delved into drugs and like alcohol as much. I'd obviously been drunk, but it was the instant feel good.
Yeah.
Like it was that instant. It was like that literally I can't explain it, like, you know.
Well, there's studies now that show the dopamine in the brain is shooting up really quickly when you gamble. It's so similar to the substances. Like the reaction in the brain is the same.
Oh.
So, and they say that there's like major highs in gambling. But also then the bad side of that is the major lows.
But the flip side of that then, right, that instant win, right, say you lose on the first bet, like what you're chasing after that then is like, right, I remember at that time I wasn't making much money. I was like, right, how can I get money for this? Need to ask my ma, might get a credit union loan. Like that's all that was consuming my brain at that time, like, and I was obviously gambling on, say, my football team in an accumulator, like, you know, GAA at the weekends, and ever if I had it's crazy, like a Westmeath minor game, I would try and back myself for a goal score, like all this sort of crack, like just, I didn't know any different at the time, like I was only a kid basically, you know, but it's that instant rush. Yeah. But as I said, then the flip side is like, your head is just so consumed about how am I going to get the next lot of money to gamble. The same with any addiction, like where am I going to get the next drug? How am I going to get money for pints at the weekend? How am I still going to let everyone know that I'm living a normal life while I'm struggling deeply with...
Yeah, because your head is just so full, isn't it?
And it's always putting on a show for other people. Now, that last stint I explained about, I stopped putting on a show, but up until that point, I was always like, right, I need to at least let people know I'm still county footballer or at that level, as much as mad now as I was going, or how off the boil I was going, or I need to let people know that my ego was still wanted me to you know, I'd still try and dress nice. I'd still try and look good or what I thought. But internally, it's just, you know, I was struggling deeply, like, and couldn't really help myself. Didn't really know where to start. Thought I was doing right by the self-medicating. I had probably taught myself that was good for me, like, you know.
Can you give us an example of that self-medicating? What were you doing thinking you were helping yourself? Just in case there's someone listening that might be in a similar vein.
So if I was maybe anxious or felt bad, like I'd be like, oh, a few pints, like, oh, I'll feel better, you know, or I'll let off some steam. But like a few pints for me always ended up around some lad's kitchen table, sniffing coke, you know, and then rolling over the next day, looking like a zombie in a pub at 10 o'clock in the morning. And like, Mullingar, where I'm from, is a small place, like everyone knows everything. And the other part, like there's other bits, like as an addict as well, like some people don't get it, but like food, like when you're not feeling good, like that's probably what I do now, is because I love training and I obviously don't have alcohol or drugs or anything like that. If I'm feeling anyway shitty, I'll eat. And for that instant moment, I feel good. And then I feel shit then straight away again, you know, like it's filling a void to make yourself slightly better. It's like instant gratification, but like you're delaying the delaying how bad you're going to feel then in the long term, like, you know.
Only that must be quite common, people thinking they can fix the problem themselves.
Yeah, and that's why it takes a while for people to come in. And it's even, apart from thinking they can fix themselves, it's putting pressure on themselves and saying, I should be able to sort this out, and being hard on themselves. And, you know, just having that judgment and being harsh. It's like an addiction is not just something that you can sort out yourself.
Let's chat about stigmas, because maybe with some of them, I think maybe Irish people are more accepting, but you mentioned judgment. When it comes to gambling, maybe because it's so silent and how it can ripple and affect families, maybe you might just give us some of the, you know, the stigmas people face.
So, well, the first one, I suppose, would be like, well, the shame of somebody losing money and losing all your money, and financially that impact, it can affect socially, like you can't access going places, spending money anytime you need money. Also, you might be worried about what people are thinking, or they might, you know something about you, or if somebody has resorted to stealing, the family will feel stigma about that. Up to more recently, gambling wouldn't have been considered an addiction. Even medically, it's only in the DSM since 2013. What? Even though there was people accessing treatment before then. But I know and I know people who would have accessed treatment earlier on. They would have sat in on alcohol programs or drugs programs. There wouldn't have been a gambling program. There probably was well, you probably covered all.
There was the gambling, drugs, and alcohol are all the same.
Yeah, so it's, and like some people only have a gambling addiction. Yeah. Although it's more common now that people are having dual addictions. It is. A lot of my clients actually just have gambling. So, but like, it wasn't recognised. So therefore it's not an addiction. So why can't you just stop?
Yeah.
And that attitude still exists, but it's impossible. And like, as I said, the science, the dopamine, it's showing the reaction in the brain, and people are coming out and talking about their experiences. So we know. Yeah.
From a family and a personal relationship point of view, Áine, though, it does shake a fundamental pillar with trust, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And I know it can be different for parents and children or partners, because like when I would help partners, sometimes they're not sure if they want to be in the relationship still.
Wow.
Because the trust is gone. It's destroyed. The impact is huge. The impact is huge on the family regardless. And very often when the person goes to get treatment, they have a sense of relief. Everybody knows now, I'm going off and I'm going to get sorted. But family members are just beginning their journey. Yeah. They've just found out, they're still in shock. They don't know where to go. They're finding out about debt every week. There's something else, someone else knocking on their door looking for money, or, or bills coming in. There's always like a little bit of a time where they might not have all the story.
Of course.
So the impact of that is huge. And I mean, I have to give people space to talk about that and think about that. I would always give as much information as possible.
Of course.
Educate people around gambling and the fact that it is an addiction, and it's like it is
that
difficult.
the people disconnect because they see the person and they stop seeing the addiction, as opposed to, you know what I mean, that's someone that is addicted and needs help, as opposed to...
Yeah, and when you can see that, I suppose there's less judgment.
Yeah.
There's more support. But if you imagine someone that is your partner just totally, I suppose, dividing that part of their life and knowing nothing about it.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it can be massive. Like, the losses can be massive. But the betrayal, the lies, like very many lies are told. And unfortunately, there's manipulation as well and control sometimes. And it's very difficult to deal with. But then the other side of it is people are concerned. They worry, why didn't I see this? And they might blame themselves as well.
Of course.
And might feel guilt about not having seen the problems. I know you said that you were trying to keep up the image and look good, but very often there's signs, like you don't quite keep the image. No. You can see a person is tormented. They're not themselves. Mm-hmm. They're distant. They're, keeping secrets, might be on their phone a lot. A lot of people are agitated. And like that's what I see people when they come in to see me, like they're very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's very hard even to stay in the room for an hour sometimes. And that's okay. Like,
of
if
course.
you want to come and see me, you can come for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
We can have a chat and work from there. It's just, but you can see it. You can see that.
Luke, you've been quite vocal brilliantly, but just the people around you, how have they managed with not only with that side of it and the stigmas around it, but also you lending your voice to it?
I suppose firstly, like, it's funny for my mum, I wouldn't be where I am. Like, we had a rough childhood, like just the two of us, and what I put her through for a long, long time. And like, in fairness, the crazy thing was I put her through hell and way I made her feel and manipulated her, because I was young at the time, and she was still the only person that stood by me, like, and my mum's only, thank God, she's only 50, and like, she's probably used to me talking now all the time, but I genuinely, she's my best friend, and I don't know what I'd do without her, like, but just something as well, just on that. So the day before I went into treatment, I was obviously MIA from the army. I think that's the term. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Think it is. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. It sounds really MacGyver.
Like
It.
So obviously my mum had got a call to say, I had finally admitted I was going into treatment. Yeah. And like, I was there saying, no, I'm going for a month and I'll come back. And they were like, if you need to go down there for 5 years, you're staying down there type thing, But the army kind of convoy came down, and my mum had left the house, and she rang Josh, my youngest brother. He was 16 at the time, and she said, just tell Luke to hide, basically, because they wanted to bring me back for procedure or whatever, whereas I was going down to this treatment centre that day, and this was my last day that I could go. And Josh said he heard a knock on the door, and he said he looked out the window. I was hiding under the bed. And like, I was obviously 25, 26 at the time. Josh was 16. Wow. And I meant to be his big brother. Like, I have two other brothers, Sean and Adam, but I meant to be his big brother. And he looked out the window. He said it was like Saving Private Ryan out the window. Like, and he said, Josh said Luke wasn't here. And he was after going already to that treatment centre, and got out from under the bed. And we both laughed, like, but I think after, I'd say Josh was like, I felt bad. I was like, because I was meant to be his big brother.
Yeah, the role model.
And he's like, if it wasn't for sport, I wouldn't be his role model at all. Like, but he's like, my big brother is so mentally fragile. And I know, like, Josh obviously knew how sick I was at that time. And, that probably, stuff like that probably plays on my mind. But say today, I know how proud they all are of me. Like, I never, as I said, never all this sort of stuff, I never really meant for it to happen. At the time, I was a year sober. Just someone got wind of it and ended up doing an interview about it. I think Westmeath had won the Tailteann Cup, and it just took off from there. And I felt a bit of it was almost like a purpose. Like I was like, I have this information, and I feel like it'd be a shame if I held on to it.
Yeah.
And I shared on my social media. I was actually going to bring it. I forgot it. A letter I found the other day that my granddad and my mom sent me when I was in treatment. And honest to God, if there was a burning building going down, they're the only two things I take. Now, my ex-girlfriend's name is on the letter my mother sent, so I might just cross that off, but Tipp-X it out. Definitely, they mean, I only found it the other day, and, they mean so much to me. And it's literally, I know I get to play sport at a highish level, playing inter-county football, but, they're proud of me for the way I live my life, not because of anything I do there. Like, they're proud because I try to help people, and I live in a way that seems right by trying to do the right thing, so.
When you spoke up, obviously, which is incredible, you said there was an incredible rally of support. Do you think it's helped with structures being put in place now? Like you mentioned your dressing room, you're not alone. You're not alone in any dressing room, rugby, soccer, whatever it is. We know this is a problem on building sites. This is
everywhere, yeah.
But just tell us about what probably came afterwards with GPA, or did any of these, fellow teammates reach out in terms of programs to help you?
Well, 100%. There's definitely, I'm actually working on something with the guards at the minute now about trying to get involved with, there's a couple of little aspects we're trying to do, but there's always people reaching out. We're trying to get involved with different projects to help people. But only for the GPA, they got me in there that time. They have great services for players, amazing. Yeah. I suppose it's now the next thing is, how do you get those services down to club players? I understand funding will be hard, because there's so many clubs and there's not as much money, I presume. But there's definitely good people out there willing to help, 100%. But I suppose I would get a lot of people reach out to me on social media about stuff, and I have to tell them, I was like, this is my experience. I'm not a counsellor or a therapist, but fair play for reaching out. They obviously felt like they could share something, and I tried to put them in, in touch with a therapist or a treatment facility or wherever,
And even being open to that, that's fantastic. That's the first person, what I was saying, reach out.
I get that a lot, and at the start it was kind of pressure. I was like, but I'm like, no, they're just accept it for what it is. They're willing to get help,
Áine, thankfully people are reaching out, but Luke's doing the right thing and putting them towards people like you with the expertise that can actually help them. How important is that we chat to the right people? Of course we need to reach out because you've the tools they need to get right.
Hopefully. I mean, I'm not, some people might not feel that I'm the right person for them, and that's okay too. Yeah. There's other people, but and if I felt somebody needed to go to a treatment centre, I would say that too. Not everybody can get to a treatment centre, they can't give the time, or there's different complications with that. But I suppose I've learned ways of helping people myself. I've learned, and also from hearing stories like Luke's and other people who have been really generous with their time and stories. So I work, I would have kind of certain tools that I work with them on to get started. Even the financial thing is a big thing to start off with. I know people don't really like it when I say hand over control completely. And I mean completely to somebody else. And sometimes when I see someone, I'll bring in the parents as well. I have a few people in and have a proper chat and talk about then giving over control of their finances. And that's a difficult one.
Of course it is.
Because it's they feel like it's control. But for me, what I say is to give a rest to someone. Your head is just, I can see the head is so busy and tormented. So if you hand over all that, you don't need to worry about it. It's not there.
Yeah.
You don't have access to it, so you can't gamble. And I've started asking a few of my clients, actually, if you had your money back now, just say a few weeks later, I might say, if you had your money back now, do you think you'd be gambling? And they would say, well, it's it varies, but
Yeah.
some of them say yes. So like it's the first thing to do, just to give your mind a rest, so you can start then to work on healing.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Only Luke mentioned it there about the kind of the dressing room, and even people gambling in different ways. And I was in a professional environment, so they need to nearly, I don't mean to sound disrespectful, but they need to cover their ass. They can't have people betting on matches that are playing in them and stuff like that. So they do awareness at the start of the year. And we did it with my former club, Worcester, over in England. So we did one on gambling, and I was blown away by the fact that we did it with these kind of, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? You touch A, B, or C for different questions.
Yeah.
And it basically profiles you for kind of risk adversity and ability to probably tend in towards being a gambler. And I was blown away that over 67% of us in the room were at risk. That young men that always... that was just our dressing room, but you probably have stats that show that there is a vulnerability around this.
Well, people
problem.
in sports and in professional sports are more likely to end up with gambling issues. Our stats in Ireland, even outside of the sports, is like there's 3.3% of people who are considered to be like problem gamblers.
Yeah.
There's another 7.1% who are just below the threshold but are displaying at-risk behaviours. But that then, the at-risk, it increases for people involved in sport. I'm not exactly sure why. I don't know. I know, actually, Oisin McConville said at a talk lately that we were chatting about this, maybe that when you're in sports, you're encouraged not to drink when you're playing. So maybe some people turn to gambling instead. I don't know.
It's also the currency of language, isn't it? You can hear a team talk that we're the underdogs. That, you know what I mean? They have us at this. You know what I mean? It's nearly like the measurement.
Yeah.
You like to, you know what I mean? Win the World Cup. Ireland are 7-1.
Yeah.
So
it's there all the time. I know. I've heard some of the DJs and sports broadcasters are refusing to talk odds now, which I think is really good. I'm delighted to hear it.
Would that help, Luke? Would that help if we push away from kind of, the language we use about 100%. Different things?
It's like everything. Like if it's our sight, our mind type thing, I suppose you're not going to change everything at once, but like by starting to change things, like making small changes. Yeah. That's how you make a difference. Like is with small changes.
Yeah, it's hard to know what triggers people.
Yeah.
So that could be.
Like you look at some people with addictions and like their triggers. The weather is some people's trigger. A loss of a game, a win of a game, a bad day at work. Like triggers vary for everyone. I know with gambling, when you're maybe out of work or sick for a day or two, you start to feel the money.
like
you can make the money back. Yeah, I completely understand. Everyone's triggers are completely different.
Just on that, obviously we're chatting to Luke and we're focusing on young men, but it's a big problem for girls and women, isn't it? And it seems to be more silent.
Very, very silent. I mean, I have no female clients who are gambling.
Wow.
I would have affected others who are females, but the statistics say that 45% of the people with issues are female.
45%.
But there's so little of them and I've had contact from one or two, but they never come in, and like I've heard it from them, I should be able to sort this out, what's going on, like it's ridiculous, or I'm being ridiculous, I should be able to fix it. But they don't come forward, unfortunately.
What would you say to them, Áine, if you could? You know what I mean? Like,
well, I spoke to someone actually lately, a lady in recovery for 3 years. She generously gave me her time, and she said it's the bravest thing you will do is to get help, and the minute you do, you'll start to feel better.
Yeah.
It improves things straight away, because your head is just, the torment is just so much. Reaching out, starting to get the help will stop all that.
I can't imagine that, I'll be honest with you. You mentioned relief there, but you can imagine how challenging it is in someone's head to be, you know what I mean, dealing with all that.
Yeah, you can see it in them. It's, it is so tormenting. It's like frustrating. The agitation is there. Their mind, like they can think of nothing else. That's what you were saying. Like it's 24/7 then as well, because the online aspect, you can, you don't have to stop gambling. If you're drinking, you might fall down eventually, or drugs, but the gambling, it's, wherever you can get the money or the time, like there's free bets and all that kind of stuff as well there to keep you there. But yeah, for women, like it's harder maybe for them to look for help, because they might think they have to go into treatment. Yeah. And they can't. They don't, they might be the main caregiver, have children at home that they can't leave. I think there's more judgment maybe.
Of course, yeah.
Because it would have originally or primarily been a men's
which is
activity.
So crazy when you think of addictions.
Well, it's changed a lot.
But that addiction can have a gender.
I know.
Bananas.
It is. And like there's lots of more products now that are aimed at women. Okay.
You're chatting about gambling.
Online even. Like I know there's casino games that are, or there's pop-ups when even you're playing things like Candy Crush and stuff that you're drawn in. I read somewhere that the start of women gambling in Ireland was when they could gamble on the lotto numbers in the bookies.
Because the addiction associates it with probably something you like. I'm just picking, and it's a stereotype, I'm wrong for doing it, but horse racing, because you're into it, it probably enhances the viewing experience, or because you feel like you're in it.
Absolutely, you're really in it.
Luke, do you have a sense of relief now? Do you feel like the kind of shackles are off a little bit? Like obviously there's the vulnerability in telling your story. But
there's probably two sides of it. When you do something in your life, you're going to get criticism regardless of what you do. Like I don't get much. Get some after a bag in Westmeath, I get that.
We've all been there. Welcome to my life. O'Callaghan, you're useless. Another 6 penalties.
I can take that. But I suppose I've been lucky. I haven't really taken much criticism, to be honest. Suppose I still have the feelings of shame and guilt, and from time to time I think about things. Even last year, I remember I was dealing with a thing of my two middle brothers, Sean and Adam. Did I do enough to protect them when I was young? And I felt like I didn't do enough for them when we were in school. And this was eating me up last year. Like I was sober at this time. And I remember sending them both a message, like a big long message. And they're both like 25 and 26 texting me back, man, will you cop on? Seriously, like what's wrong, But
that's family, isn't it?
100%.
Like, we all falter and we all catch each other.
100%. Today I know that I live my life and I'm able to be myself. And I try my best to do the right thing, even though it's not always, I don't have all the answers, but I'll be, as long as you're yourself, like, you can't really go too far wrong. You're not going to please everybody. You know that, like never going to please everyone. And when you stop trying to please everyone, you really start to grow. And
you hit a lovely spot.
100%, like, because you're going to make mistakes. If you're trying to do things the right way, you'll try and fix them if they're to be fixed, and if it's not for you, you'll move on to the next thing and look, that wasn't for me. But I'm always trying to grow as a person. Like I'm in a sports mode at the minute and trying to help people, but I know when the day comes that I'm not playing sport, I know I'll try something different. I'll try keep progressing and growing and learning and changing, and that's what it's all about, really.
Nailed it. Only just Luke chatting there about his brothers and that support system, and I love that he kind of finds it awkward because they're younger, you know what I mean? But it just we chat about the addict, but can we chat for a few minutes about what's around, because it does. Gambling affects so many. It affects families, communities. It has a massive ripple effect. What advice would you have for people around gamblers? That support. How can they help?
Resource centres are offering counselling to affected others. Now, if I was seeing say Luke, I wouldn't then be seeing his family
of
member,
course.
but there's other therapists, that we can refer to. I think the centres do work with families as well, but the families need help as well. They're carrying a lot. Like, there's evidence to show that the mental health of family members of gamblers is worse than others, as is the mental health of the gambler. So the families are affected a lot.
It's so long-tailed, isn't it?
Yeah. For every one, they say it's 6 others are affected, and then that's not even taking into account the community effect. So it's a lot of people. And again, I suppose I'm promoting the resource centres there, but there's loads of stuff there. Like there's play therapy, art therapy, there's stuff for everybody. So from 0 up, that support is there. So
it's amazing. Like you mentioned, play support, but you mightn't think that. But someone younger mightn't have the vocabulary to express themselves.
Yeah. Well, you see, if your parent is not present, then you're missing out on something. You might not know that, but that then might come out in a behaviour. The child might be upset, can cause anxiety and depression. It does have that ripple effect.
Yeah.
A lot of people are affected, and the support is there. So the person in addiction has to be ready to get help themselves. They have to be willing. But even if they're not, go and get help yourself.
Yeah.
Like, I would do a piece where I would give a lot of information and education on different bits and pieces around gambling, and when the person's ready, even to have that.
Yeah.
Or even to know it's an addiction. They don't it's not necessarily a thing about, they don't mean it. They're not doing this to you. So that support is there.
Yeah.
So I would reach out.
It's amazing. I'm just thinking, it's put your own life jacket on first, isn't it?
Exactly.
It really is. Of course, you're around someone with a problem, but you have to look after you a little bit in terms of, so that you maybe can help. Absolutely, yeah. Áine, can you give us some of the early signs for people to watch out for, or just little things that, you know what I mean, that throw up a little flag that people should just be conscious of?
So I would say when someone's being secretive, maybe, on their phone a lot, maybe highs and lows in mood, sickness that's not really explained, depression, anxiety, very withdrawn, and maybe there's something, you can see something's on their mind, but you don't know exactly what.
Yeah.
And that kind of connected to being on the phone a lot and being withdrawn. That's, I think, what have I missed out on anything?
No, you're not hitting it in the head there, right, John?
Luke, you mentioned physical training is a bit of a therapy for you in ways.
100%.
You're looking at Nick, and obviously it is the time of the year for you to get ready to go, but just how important is it for, you know what I mean, just even the medicine of training?
100%. I have a kind of a thing, like when things are going good in my life, train harder.
Yeah.
When things are going bad, train harder, or double down on performance, I think. Or
no wonder they love you. Everyone will be talking over their team.
It's maybe not just to train harder, but just
I know.
your habits almost, like,
exactly,
when things are going good, why are they going good? Make sure you double down. But when I went in, the day before I went into Cumira, not to be going back on it, I had I got a sheet, an A4 sheet of paper, so I knew I was going to have no phone. And I wrote down, so at that time everyone was doing workouts on Instagram, like bodyweight workouts.
Yeah.
So I got an A4 sheet and I wrote down about 30 workouts on both sides of the page. Now, I never thought I was ever going to use it, but I had the box ticked, and I remember I just had the sheet. I remember I think I was in there 2 weeks, you're in detox. So after I came out of detox, I was allowed to start doing a small bit. And it was just kind of after my chat with Josie that time. And I found this sheet, and I said, after that, I was like, right, I'm going to get as fit as humanly possible. And how that's going to help me, I don't know, but it will. And I started doing these workouts in between the beds, and going down to the farm down there, and I'd be doing them twice a day. Then as well, I met a man in there from Monaghan, and he used to wake me up at 5 o'clock every morning, and there was a farm lane, and he was actually in there for gambling, and he was in there, and there was a farm lane, so we'd no phone or whatever, so we knew the farm lane was 300 metres. So obviously if I done 10 lengths, it was 3K. It was like a time trial, so he'd be up and down, and every day, like, we'd be doing that in the morning and then do one of the workouts in the evening. He'd come down with me and he'd be always saying, like, you might not get a chance at Westmeath again, but if you do, you need to be ready, like.
Wow.
And, you know, then my club was obviously, you know, going to be having games. He said, you need to be ready now if that club needs you, like, you know. And this was kept... I was ready for the All-Ireland final.
Yeah. Throw a ball at him, let him have.
Or whatever team, you know. But, you know,
every inter-county coach taking their teams down there.
But, no, definitely, in my life, it's... I feel like how the stuff happened for me was sharing stuff through my exercise on social media. And I feel like that's kind of the benchmark of why things have happened to me, is because I've used that as my release and the main focal point of my recovery. And I feel like that's been amazing for me. Like, it's an instant feel good. Like, you know yourself, you do a training session, go for a walk, you feel good. You never feel bad after it. Like,
but you mentioned it. It's chemicals. You know what I mean? It's those endorphins again to make you feel good. I do want to ask you, do you mind if I ask, and I'll come to both of you, but just the new gambling advertising ban, can I chat to you a little bit about that? We spoke about how easy it is, you know, with some of the different platforms to gamble. How good is it now to see that there's legislation in place that we don't, you know, harm our most vulnerable? Áine, I'll go to you first.
It's brilliant. I can't wait for the new regulations. It will make a difference, yeah, absolutely, because even I was chatting to someone lately, it was one of my clients saying that he had to turn off telly because he was watching a programme and he was tormented by the advertisements. He couldn't keep watching it because it was just too triggering for him.
Wow.
Like, if you turn on the radio and you're listening to it, it's non-stop.
Yeah.
It really is non-stop. It's over the top. So to know that that's going to kind of disappear at certain times, I think that's a relief. It will be a relief for people. So I'd welcome those changes.
Luke, what about you? And even just the access. Like, when we chat about you being on the bus and you can see people on different platforms, it does feel too easy, doesn't it?
I suppose it's like I work, I don't know if I said, I work for Westmeath and do the coaching and stuff like that. So it's like trying to prevent those kids for as long as possible having the access, you know, for as late as possible, you know, like, because you get to a stage, maybe you're 18, 19, you have never seen it before, like, it mightn't affect you as much, like, you know, you haven't seen it as much, but it's just prevention, like, you know, just trying to keep people away from it. And people are going to make mistakes, you know, but why would you give them as much a chance? Like, you want to prevent them as much as possible. So that's kind of just what I think about, like.
I might just get a personal reflection from both of you, from a professional and an experienced point of view, just to someone that might be listening that either is in trouble themselves or knows of someone. What would you both say to them from your, Luke, for you with your own personal experience, but Áine with you with your, you know, educated side of it and being able to help?
You know, like, we were all born good people. Like, nobody was born bad. And like, when I went into Coomera and I was doing the rosary twice a day and I was in mass twice a day, I thought I was the first person that was going to be burning into flames, like, you know. But I suppose every day, you know, we're going through stuff, we have choices. And some people think when they're at rock bottom, you know, that's as bad as it can get. But unfortunately, as I know, when you think you're at rock bottom, you can actually go a few more levels down and it can get worse. But on the flip side of that, things can get a whole lot better very quickly with small changes, you know, reaching out to a professional, reaching out to a loved one. Things can get easier. And, you know, we suffer in imagination a lot more than we do in reality. Like, you know, in our own head,
so true.
It's just been able to open up a small bit and just putting one foot in front of the other and just trying to find a way through this thing with support of your family and your friends. And, you know, your life can change in a small space of time. Mine definitely has. I have a life today that I never thought possible, to be honest. And it just happened by just trying to be a better person and trying to help myself, you know. So, and only for people like Áine, you know, go through hundreds of people all the time and to be able to give them all probably the same care and level of love. You know, it's amazing.
Áine, you'd echo that? Anything you'd like to add?
Absolutely. Well, I would say the client does the work.
Yeah.
I support them to do the work, but they're the people that come through for themselves. And they do. And that's like, definitely reach out. It is definitely possible to get to the other side of it and to have that good life. It's there's people like Luke that are showing us that every day.
Simply.
Don't be afraid to reach out.
We will put up the link for supports below on this or on this. Just for you as well, is there anywhere people can go find out more? You've greater knowledge. Where should people look if they're reaching out?
Bagenalstown Family Resource Centre.
We'll definitely share that. And then there's
gamblingcare.ie.
Okay, thank you so much. Honestly, Áine, for everything you do for people that are vulnerable and need your help, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Luke, good on you. Good on you. Obviously, we wish you unbelievable success in the pitch, but for having the bravery to stand up for people that mightn't have a voice, you should be so proud of yourself. I know you said your granddad and your mom wrote you letters. They could be echoed by everyone that's ever listened to you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
If you've been affected by any of the discussion in this episode, help is available. Contact the HSE or speak to a healthcare professional. Visit hse.ie for support and services. That's it for this episode of Under Construction with thanks to Chadwicks. A massive thank you to you for listening. Also to our fantastic guests. If you'd like to subscribe or follow, we'd really appreciate it. Or you can hit the like button. See you next time.